Welcome everybody to a class, a very special day today. Why? Because there's a Torah that's being dedicated. Everybody is welcome. Go to the Artist Street, and in the Artist Street there is what's called the Kabbalah Center. It's not associated to the Kabbalah Center of um, yes, this is a kosher Kabbalah Center. It's basically made by a no, it's
I'm
made by.
interested in the other one now.
Yeah, no. You don't know about the Kabbalah Center? Okay, that's fine. You're not missing much. But in any event, there's kind of like a quasi Jewish Kabbalah Center, but it's like not exactly halachically okay. But the Kabbalah Center here is actually the Chabad rabbi that runs it. It's basically a center for Spanish speaking Jews. That's in the street with all the artists, and there's going to be a Sefer Torah. I put it on the WhatsApp group. You can share it. It's really worthwhile to go. It's going to be a very special ceremony, going to the Artist Quarter Minyan. So our great holy guest Yael has asked me to speak about the Torah, and some other people asked about that. It's very, very appropriate time to speak about a Torah. So I want to give you an example for a Torah. Now imagine for a moment you have a piece of paper. In this piece of paper, there's codes. If you know anything about computer, I studied a little bit of computer programming, all you'll see basically is information. You don't see anything. So what ends up happening is you see this piece of paper and you don't see much. Yet this piece of paper is the program that programs everything. There's nothing in the universe that doesn't come from this piece of paper or this book. In this book is every single thing that will ever happen. Now that is the Torah. Before Hashem made the world, Hashem made the Torah. The Torah is what we call the blueprints of reality. Now the interesting thing about the Torah is connected to Hashem. I've mentioned this in some of the classes. And a very interesting thing about Hashem is that every single thing that we can see, we already have it defined. And if it's defined, it's not unlimited. And if it's not unlimited, then it's not what it really is, because everything is really Hashem, and Hashem is really unlimited. So, I'll say that again. Okay, you see the shofar over here, right? The shofar is defined. The mind sees an object, and you can define the object. But if you can define the object, you're not really seeing its soul. What you're seeing is its body. You're seeing what the mind can see is only limited. The mind is a limited machine, can take in information, but it's limited information. Limited in how much information it can take in, certainly at a moment. And it's also limited on the information it takes in. The mind can only understand. Very, 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 very famous example from quantum physics. You know a little bit about quantum physics? Okay, so quantum physics, very long story short. What does the Latin word for atom mean? An atom, what does it mean? The smallest indivisible part. So when they went down, they thought, okay, we're going to finally discover what is the smallest part. But if you take this shofar, you look at the smallest part, what will you see? At most, the theory is you'll see kind of a frequency. That's all you'll see. So basically, what is a shofar? It's like a frequency. That's pretty much the most accurate, smallest thing that you can say about anything. It's like a frequency. And that's the whole thing of E equals M. Energy is matter. So when you look at it, it's matter. But when you don't look at it, it's basically energy. And so the story of life is that the energy itself is not really like, it's not like, here's a really good example. If you look at your brain, what will you see? Right? You'll see some, spaghetti, some chocolate, some Torah, right? All these different things are in your brain. If you look at the structure of the brain, really what you're seeing is a capacity, an ability to think, right? Look at your heart. What do you really see? Maybe you have different emotions, but you have the ability to have emotions, right? If you look at your legs, what are you looking at? The ability to walk, the ability to run. Okay?
Like the potential?
The potential, right? So in life, everything is a mix of potential and of actual. So when you're speaking about God, and God has infinite potential, there's no limitation on his potential. Even things that are opposites can coexist because there's no limitation. Now, you and I have limitations on our potential. Maybe you sing very beautiful, but there are only certain notes that you can reach. Right? There's certain limitations. It's very beautiful. But within the realm of music that the human ear can hear, you are very, very good. But you're not infinite. You're not unlimited in your potential. You're limited in your potential. Hashem, on the other hand, is unlimited in his potential. And that's why one of the things that Rebbe would often quote is the idea of the Kodesh HaKadosh, and the Holy of Holies was a room, let's say, like this size. And that room itself had space, but yet infinite amount of space could come in. Every single Jew can fit into that room. I don't know if you know this, but the Rebbe speaks very clearly that we're going to come to the times of the Beis HaMikdash. We're going to be going to, when Mashiach comes, where are we going to be going to? By the way, we want to wish, is it Emma? No, what is it again?
Erica.
I got the E right.
Yeah.
See, I don't remember. What's your Jewish name again?
Masha.
Masha. There we go. I want to wish Masha Mazel Tov for her engagement. That's big stuff.
Thank you.
So we'll all give you, maybe you'll speak to Yael. She can give you good advice. Okay. But in any event, we want to dedicate this class to you. What's your name? Masha Bas?
Yocheved.
Masha Bas Yocheved. Okay. What's your chassan's name?
Daniel.
Daniel Daniel Ben. Do you know his mom?
Maria.
Okay, no problem. Maybe Miriam or something. So, whatever. Well, she's got to have a Jewish name. If she So you guys should have a beautiful life. And this, what I'm saying now is very, very relevant to getting married.
Okay.
Because in marriage, you need three things. You need the blueprint. The Rebbe would always say you should have a marriage based on the foundations of Torah and mitzvahs.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that when you get married, very important, obviously I don't have to tell you, but the idea is that when you're building a house, you don't really look so much at the interior. The main thing is the foundation of the house. You know, when you go to a builder, you don't go to an interior designer. Hey, I want you to make me a nice kitchen. No, when you're building a house, you need a guy that understands how to make a foundation, how to make 4 good walls. The same thing as Judaism is the foundation. Thank God I like to say I'm a man with experience. I've been married twice. So, so I know that in marriage, really, I came to the realization very clearly that in the second time around, I was like, I didn't do it the first time, but even more careful the second time. Whatever Hashem tells me to do, that's it. I'm doing it. I wasn't so smart. So if Hashem has good advice in how to make a marriage work, I'm in. I want his advice because that's the strongest foundation. And truly, one of the reasons marriages unfortunately fails very much today is because it's not built on a foundation of holiness. So what's it built on? So it's built on self-interest. So self-interest can, unfortunately, the Yetzer Hara, you know about the Yetzer Hara? Heard of that guy? Bad guy. So the Yetzer Hara comes in and he says, this person should have done this for me and they should have done that for me. The Yetzer Hara is an expert at showing us what everybody else did wrong except for ourselves. Big expert. So a marriage has to be built on, this is the will of Hashem. Hashem created, the first thing God did is he created a marriage. He created a male, first thing, a female. He had them get married, had them make children. Number one job in this world. So if you understand that this is my greatest contribution to life, I think that unfortunately the society that we've grown up, even though I grew up religious, but I grew up kind of in a secular environment, I think we've been, unfortunately, I've mentioned this before, that I saw this thing in the airport in Germany. The UN had this thing, a woman is a doctor. What about a mother? No. What about a wife? No. In other words, there's been this kind of horrific idea that the greatest thing a woman can do is anything but a mother. No. A woman can do anything. But being a mother is actually the greatest thing she can do, bring in life to the world. Without that, unfortunately, statistically, there's a book that was written, How Civilizations Die, including Islam, that most, almost besides evangelical Christians, and Orthodox Jews, basically every single society is not producing enough children to replace themselves. So this is like literally a life and death situation. So I think that's so important that we value our role as a father, as a mother. If we realize what we're doing is valuable, right? Even myself, let's say, growing up in the secular environment, I never was told, I was never shown a value in this idea of having children, of being a good husband, family. Your value is always, what can you do for the world? But that's the first thing you can do for the world. Not to mention what you could do for yourself. You have another person in life, that you have partnership. You have the first thing that God says, not good for man to be alone. It's really not good. It's much better to have a friendship and the love and all the beautiful things that it gives. So anyway, that's a pep talk. I'm not sure why I said it. But the main thing that I want to say is that the foundation is very important. And Hashem made the world, the Rebbe says, a very powerful letter, that Hashem wants everybody to be have a good marriage. He wants them to be happy, and I've seen it very clearly. Like I say, I'm a man with experience. That when you get married, suddenly the blessings come. Often in the West, particularly, we're very worried about finances. How are we going to finance this whole thing? But the truth is, once you get married, I've seen it both times, like job offers and everything just starts to happen because Hashem is financing your marriage. He's the third partner. And when you do that, the famous joke, guy comes to his future father-in-law. So the father-in-law says, "Oh, I'm so happy. You're going to marry my daughter. So what do you do for a living?" He says, "Hashem will help." "Oh, very nice. Have you ever thought of a career?" He says, "No, no, no. Hashem will help." He says, "Oh, that's beautiful. Tell me, is there any way that you plan on making an income?" He says, "No, no, no. Hashem will help." So then the daughter comes over. Sorry, the wife goes to the man and says, "Oh, you had a conversation with our future son-in-law. What do you think about it?" He says, "This guy, I've never met a guy like him. He's my favorite person in the world." She said, "Why? He's such a critical person." He says, "He thinks I'm God." Okay, get it? Okay. So no, he thinks I'm going to support him. The father-in-law is saying. Anyway, that's just a joke. But the real truth is that it's a big mistake that we think that, when Hashem really is the father and the mother of the relationship. He's the one that told us to get married. So really, obviously you can't be lazy, but there's no question about it. As soon as you get married, the job offers come, and the ability to make the money and literally have a blessed life. Now, it's an interesting thing when we talk about blessings, or people talk about success in the Western world. It means, I don't know, money or fame, or both, hopefully. But in the real sense, what if a person's sick? That's not much of a blessing. A blessing is that everything is flowing, right? You're healthy, your relationships are good, you have nachas. A blessing is that everything is flowing, and only Hashem can give us a blessing. No matter what we can do, we see it clearly in the Western world. There's so much about success, and all this doesn't matter, because if that comes at the price of marriage, or that comes at the price of health or something, it wasn't worth it. So if we follow Hashem, everything. And as I've mentioned to someone, also it's like Hashem doesn't drop the lotto out of the sky, because you would go crazy. Most people that win the lotto actually lose the money in a couple of years. They don't have what we call the kalim. They don't have the maturity. They don't know how to handle. So Hashem slowly but surely is building you up. So you just have to say, "I'm a soldier of Hashem. I'm happy to do your will." Okay, that's the foundational part. Maybe you'll send your chassan this video. The second part of a marriage is a very powerful letter from the Rebbe, where the Rebbe mentions, very interesting, the main thing of a marriage is actually joint resolutions. In other words, you by nature are two people. God made us to be two people, and so that's a good thing. You don't want to marry yourself. You know yourself already, and it's not as fun. And so the idea is that you're meant to marry somebody with a different opinion. And you're meant to, and this is actually our doctor's expertise, you're meant to talk. You're meant to come to a place where you both agree. It's very important to have, anybody wants, I could try to send you a beautiful letter from the Rebbe on kind of mediation, which is kind of the key of marriage, the ability to kind of work things out. Now, and then of course the Rebbe speaks about that if the mitzvah of Avas Yisrael, the mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew, extends to anybody anywhere around the world, it begins at home. So I think it's an interesting thing. It's brought down in Chassidus that actually, it's an interesting thing that we can, when we have a lot of love for someone, we can also not have fear. And that's an interesting thing because sometimes maybe with a stranger, you might treat them a little bit better. Sorry, I'm just gonna make a happy compromise here. That hot. You might, whoops, yeah, there we go, 26. So you might treat them a bit better than somebody that you might very comfortable with, maybe even your mother or something. Why? Because you don't have any fear, or because there's a lot of love, it kind of takes away the fear factor. So it's also very important in marriage to always like treat the person as if they're a stranger. So that's a very important thing, especially with men. Respect is very important, and disrespect really is a very big problem. It depends on how much a person can handle, but if a person's quite, let's call it vulnerable, disrespect can really shatter a relationship. So a person has to be very, very careful, especially when you're feeling frustrated. I think that part of the issues that we have today is that so much is put on the couple. In the olden days, the men and women were much more in their own circles. And so even if you think about a man, let's say going to shul, I think it's very healthy. He should be with other men. And a woman might have been more with the other women, so you had a better support. So really, men and women coming together should be magical. That's why I knew that with COVID that it would, unfortunately, I realized it would break up a lot of marriages as it did, because it's just not healthy for people to be in the same house the whole time. It's very good. It's very healthy. Should be that you're waiting for your husband to come home. You're really excited to see him, and he should be excited to see you. There has to be everything of a relationship. The Baal Shem Tov says it's like a dance where people go in and out. There has to be this experience of separation and connection. If it's always connected, then it's not going to be so exciting anymore. So there has to be separation and connection, which is part of the magic of a man and a woman. Because you're kind of separate, therefore the connection makes it more special.
What about when people say like, oh, well, like if you say that, then you clearly like aren't so like you don't love me then. I'm not saying that's my experience, but like in the world, people would say like, well, if you don't want to spend time together, then that means
More important than love is good behavior. Because if people behave well, then God made it in such a way that you'll love each other. I mean, there's intimacy and it creates a very strong bond. It's very interesting. In the Torah, it says that the obligation of a husband to his wife is she'eruk susa v'inosa, basically to provide food and clothing and intimacy. And it doesn't say that he has to talk to her. Why? Because the truth is, far more important than talking is if he provides. If he provides and he does what he should do, then the wife will feel good, and ultimately she wants to be proud of him. And conversely, the opposite is true as well. A woman shouldn't feel entitled. Oh, now I'm allowed to get whatever. Our rabbis or sages say that a woman, should clean the house. Let's say should make the food. Why? Because everybody needs to feel in a relationship that it's a 50-50 partnership. They're getting something out of the relationship. If one person is doing everything, then what's going to end up happening is somebody's going to feel, hey, this isn't fair. And so now, yeah. Does that make sense? In other words, it's a give and take relationship. Basically, it has to be that both people are coming to the party. Both people are contributing to the marriage. Meaning, it could be in different ways. I mean, it could be even if a woman has a better job and the husband's happy to clean the house, that's fine. But the point is, can't be that one person is giving and the other person is receiving, Because if that happens, what ends up happening is somebody's going to feel why it's not fair. Both people have to be, I have to carry 50% of this marriage. The marriage has a lot of different. That's true, 100%. I'm agreeing with that. But what if she? There, yeah. There's right,
yeah.
right, yeah. There are spoiled people in this world.
Wow.
Yes, Yael, you want to say something?
Please hold the questions till the end, please.
Okay. They asked us to hold the questions to the end. Okay.
Okay.
So let me just share one more thing with Torah, and then okay, we're going to stop a little early today because I want to allow people to go to, myself included, to go to the Torah ceremony, which is very, very exciting. So so the bottom line of the Torah, you can't say the bottom line of the Torah because the Torah is infinite. And what's very important to understand is there are 5 layers to the Torah. So it's such an interesting thing. I was giving you the example before. Here you see a shofar, something finite, and yet it's also infinite. It comes from Hashem. So the same thing that you can see at the same time as a deeper level that is infinite. And if you're a scientist, even just a regular scientist, you can look at it, you say, what is this thing? You go deeper, you can look at its atoms, you can look at its quantum properties. So the same thing can be understood on many, many, many different levels. So on one hand, the Torah comes and it's a basic instruction of good behavior, right? The Torah is basically, that's what the Torah is, how to behave properly. The other hand, the Torah has remuzim and has hints. The Torah has lessons, deeper lessons, not only good behavior. As we know, the Medrash, most of the secrets of the Torah are contained in the Medrash. This is like Chassidus, how to be good on a deeper level. Then you have the Kabbalah. It's all from the Torah. Every single thing, we'll always quote the Torah. And again, you have the Kabbalah. It's the same book, and yet it exists on an entirely different plane. It's telling you what God created. The letters themselves become numbers, and these numbers become the very fabric. I know a couple of people in our city itself, Alona Nava, who had whether near-death experiences or various other experiences, and they saw how the whole world is Hebrew letters. If you had an X-ray vision, you would see how everything you're looking at is a Hebrew letter. And these Hebrew letters are actually shaped in a way that the energy comes into the world. Let's say a hey, it's a shape of how the energy comes into the world. In fact, I once did this, I don't know if it's accurate, but if you look at H2O, which is water, it's H2O2 oxygens. There's a hydrogen atom surrounded by 2 oxygen atoms. And if you think about it, it's interesting because the Hebrew word for mayim is 2 mems, and inside
it's H2, so it's oxygen,
2 the other way around, oxygen with 2 hydrogens. So it's like the similar kind of a setup. The Hebrew word for that property is similar to its molecular structure. So it's very, very interesting. And the bottom line is that ultimately Hashem is always speaking the world into existence. The Torah, we don't say the blessing that God gave us the Torah. Every day we make the blessing. We don't say Nosan Torah, He gave us the Torah. We say Noisin Torah, that's giving us the Torah. Every single day the Torah is given again on a higher level. This is the greatest principle of Judaism. It's very, very hard for us to understand this principle. It's easier to say it than to understand it. I know the principle, but it's very hard to actually get it. And the principle is that, by the way, I just need to apologize in case my phone goes, where it will be kind of the end of the class because in any event we're kind of finishing. But I'm just apologizing in advance if that happens. But the principle is that everything is being upgraded. And today we know with science, once upon a time you lived in a world that somebody told me that it was that part of the different reasons we went through different empires, etc., was that people should be able to think out of the box. We live in a world that everything was in a box. This is what a horse is. This is what a car is. Now, if you tell me what a car is, what is a car? Basically, it's a transportation device. But you can never define it because it's going to get better. Maybe a car soon is going to be a plane, and you never know what's coming. What is a phone? It used to be something to call people. Now a phone is like a computer. What is a smartphone? Who knows what a smartphone? Like even today, we can't even do everything your phone can do. So this teaches us that we live in an upgrading world. Everything is getting upgraded. And most importantly, spirituality. Because physicality, there's only so many meals that you need a day. You don't need that much physically. You need safety, emotional, physical, you need food, etc. But you don't really need that much physically. But spiritually, it's getting upgraded. Hashem is giving us the Torah. The main thing of the Torah is Chassidus, which is its spiritual growth. And this is the world that we're living in, infinite growth. So let us go, let us dance with the Torah, let us realize that the Torah is not an ancient book. The Torah is the blueprint of infinity, and as it's the bridge between the infinity of Hashem and us. It's pulsating. It's coming in, just like, let's say you have computer programmers always coming up with better programs and new things. It's pulsating in. It's giving us upgrades on how to always get better and better and higher and higher. L'chaim v'levracha. All right.